We are going live. My daughter.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here at the Latino Education Collaborative. Today, we are hosting a press conference. It marks an important moment for our community and for our work. Today, we are talking about our landscape analysis for educators of color here in Kansas City. Uh, the most current and comprehensive look at the diversity here in our city. So this report tells a story of the progress and the purpose of more than 500 educators who have joined our regional workforce since 2022. And Latino representation, as we know, has tripled from since 2019. This number reflects the collective effort of educators, districts, and community partners who work day by day, side by side, to impact our communities and the students of color. At the heart of this work is the belief that representation matters, that every student deserves to learn from teachers who understands their way of life, their culture, their experience and language. So to speak more on this, I would like to introduce and welcome Edgar Palacios, our current CEO and founder of ABC.
I really love the formality of this moment, so I appreciate everyone engaging with it. As Iman mentioned, my name is Edgar Palacios. I am the founder of the Latinx Education Collaborative, and I welcome you all here today because today is an important day in our organization, but an important day in the community. Um, I founded this organization back officially in 2018. It was an idea in 2016, and it was based on observations from across the country, walking into different schools, visiting different school models, school systems, and seeing that Latino students were everywhere. Latino students in the community were present, but there were very few Latino adults in positions of power and influence in decision making, and also educators being one of the most important categories of those adults. Um, I began to do research at that time, and I was looking for organizations that were specifically serving Latinos, in particular Latino educators, and figuring out how do you build that community, how do you attract more Latino educators, how do you retain the current supply of Latino educators. And I didn't find many. I remember encountering an organization out of Boston called Latinos for Education, and they were doing similar work, more advocacy related focused work. I also remember encountering small organizations that were not yet fully, alive, but they were just groups and informal gatherings of folks, and I was really inspired by that. And then after we launched officially, I found an organization out of North Carolina called Latinx Ed. And me and Elaine Austin had a wonderful conversation about who had the name first. And they do incredible work, although their work is more focused on college access and really creating opportunities and pathways for young Latinos to begin that process of serving in positions of power and decision making. I really want to thank all of you, each and every one of you, because this work is a community effort. It is a community-centric effort. It is a community-driven effort, and it's important that we do this collectively. It can't be just one organization. It can't just be one district, one school site that cares about representation. It has to be all of us, and that's an important thing to note because as we think about this work and as we think about the future of this work, we have to continue to deepen our relationships. We have to continue to deepen our partnerships and understand that the prevailing winds might be against us in this moment, right? We're seeing a lot of policy, a lot of legislation, a lot of issues that are impacting the ability for us to do the work and to do it well. And we need each and every one of you to be advocates for our work. Not that you already aren't. I think a lot of you, and certainly most of you in this room, are doing this work every day, day in and day out. But we need to increase the number of folks who are advocating on behalf of our young people and advocating for the fact that we need to see adults in the classrooms that reflect them. I want to thank our team who works exceptionally hard day in and day out to really create the mission, to move the mission forward. I want to thank our board members, our funders, our community partners, and our media partners as well for continuing to tell our stories and for finding ways to highlight incredible educators across our city and across our community. And I also want to thank all the people who have stepped up along the way and offered their support. I remember someone like Lisa Lopez, who worked at the Kansas City Star, and she offered us furniture for when we first moved into our first office, right? I think about folks like Marta Silva, who attended one of our first convenings and was so empowered and excited that she brought in her students and she brought other folks. Like, this work is not done through just one person or one organization again. It is done through people and through that kind of inspirational, organizing way of doing this work. And so thank you all for being part of that. When I started looking to create the business case for why an organization like the LEC should exist, I went on every school district's website and I went name by name, and I shouldn't have probably done that, but I assumed people were looking, and I counted the number of educators that I found, I counted the numbers of Latino surnames, or assumed number of surnames, and I found that roughly at that time in 2017, 2018, it was roughly between 2 to 4%. That is what I counted. I did not know that we could partner with university institutions and others that can create that research or had access to that data already. And so in 2021, we partnered with the Urban Education Research Center at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And we released our initial landscape analysis report, where we found that only 1% of educators at that time identified as Latino. And I think that number was 261, if I'm not mistaken. We also knew that they had 52,000 Latino students at that time. So the representation gap is a real one in Kansas City. Our numbers nationally look just a little bit better. Latino students make up 25% of the total K-12 student population, and Latino educators make up roughly 9%. And that number tends to hover between 8 and 9. Sometimes I've seen the number be 7. Depends year on year, but we have seen minimal incremental kind of growth in those numbers. And so we're seeing that growth here in Kansas City. 3 data points, a couple that Ivan already mentioned that I want to kind of just share quickly. Educators of colors are increasing across the region, growing from 10% to 12%. From 22 through the end of 25, or the end of last school year. Latino educator representation has nearly tripled since 2019, reaching 2.7%. And so the exciting number in terms of percentage, in terms of the amount that it grew, still a lot of work for us to do to ensure that our young people have access to educators that understand their culture, are from the community, and reflect who they are. And then finally, we have a persistent 16-point representation gap between the Latino student population, which around the city is roughly 18.5%, and the educator workforce, which is 2.7%. And so there are a lot of strategies, conversations in place across the city of how to address that. We are definitely a part of that conversation, and we also want to influence that conversation. We believe that this work, again, is done through the care of others and through the care of people's humanity, right? We have to honor the effort and the sacrifice that Latino educators make day in and day out in the community. We have to honor that oftentimes, if they are the only Latino in the building or in the district, which we have met, if they happen to be bilingual, they become the chief Latino officer of their community, right? And all the issues that are related to our community become their responsibility. So often there's a lot of undercompensation, no compensation for the additional efforts. But they are the glue that holds community together. So we want to honor that, and that is part of our work in retaining educators. It is building that community. On the recruitment end, Dr. Valdez, she runs our Futuros program, and so we are wanting to increase Latino educators by 50 by 2027, and we are 3 years in, and we have been successful in meeting our current goals, and we are on track to meet the 50 by 2027. We have one of our Futuros here today that will talk a little bit more about the program and their experience. And then clearly, we also have to be responsive to the current issues that are facing our community, right? Latino educators aren't just educators. They are parents, they are community members, they have other identities that have to be honored as well. And so as the world becomes increasingly more political, as our community is under attack in many ways, we have to be mindful that we have to address the full humanity of an educator and ensure that they're doing well across the board. So saying that, I welcome Ivan back to introduce our next speaker. And again, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Edgar. Up next, we have some speakers from districts and communities with the highest education representation of Latino educators who will be speaking today. And first, we have Randy Lopez. I would like to welcome Randy Lopez from the Kansas City Public School in Kansas.
Thank you, Yvonne. Good afternoon. Great to see everyone here. What an exciting day, as Edgar mentioned, and the speakers before me. My name is Randy Lopez. I am serve as president of the Board of Education for Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. And I'm excited to hear more about the data, to learn about the things that we're all collectively doing to support, to retain, and to attract talented educators in our community. Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, we have around 60% of our students who identify as Hispanic or Latino. We have 21,000 total students. We have over 60 languages that are spoken in our district. And we know that representation matters. So our team works hard and diligently to make sure that our students, our scholars, our families, and that our staff feel supported and have the resources to be successful. One of those is to ensure that our educators in the classroom reflect our student population. And so we know it's important to make sure that our Latino educators in particular feel supported, have resources to be successful, and have the resources and opportunities to continue in their journey, whether it's staying in the classroom, becoming an administrator, or whatever that looks like. We want to make sure that we support them. But it starts with retaining those talented individuals, retaining those talented staff that we have to ensure that our students and scholars feel seen and represented in the classroom. So I'm really excited about what our district has been doing, the strategies that our HR team has taken on, that our administration has taken on to ensure that all educators feel supported, but in particular, our Latino and our African American educators have what they need so that they can be successful. We know that our students need to be seen and need to be heard, and that's one way that we can do it. So I appreciate the partnership that we have with the Latinx Collaborative. You guys are doing an amazing job. We appreciate the collaboration that we have with our neighboring districts as well. We're doing some amazing work, and I think together we're all working to find ways that we can increase the pipeline to our educators of color, especially our Latino educators. It's hard. It's something that we are all working on diligently to make sure that we find strategies and ways to retain and attract those talented educators. So Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, we're excited for this report. We're excited to continue to work with all of you to make sure that we are supporting our scholars, our families, and our educators of color, in particular today, really recognizing and lifting up our Latino educators in Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. So glad to be here, excited for the report and the information. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for being here with us and sharing some of your thoughts with this great news of our increasing representation. Up next, we have Adriana Pence from Kansas City Public Schools here in Missouri. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Adriana Pence. I serve as the HR Manager, Talent Acquisition and Evaluation over in Kansas City, Missouri. Been here for a few months and loving it. Spent the past 13 years over in Kansas City, Kansas. And before that was in the independent school district. But I was raised in Los Angeles, and that taught me a lot with where I wanted to end up as an educator and what I wanted to do through my pipeline of leadership as well. So I'm here representing KCMO, and I looked at all of our numbers today and was very excited to see what this report has, because there's a lot of work and groundwork that's already been laid. We can do more. Over 60% of our staff is not white. So identifying as Latinx, many cultures within our district, smaller than KCK, but many languages, over 65 languages as well. We have many really awesome partnerships that we continue to work towards, and really cool retention strategies coming up, such as housing and loan forgiveness, which sets us apart. And that really helps us to recruit from the community and help our community members become teachers and stay with us. We also have a strong pipeline that we're building from our high schools and up with UMKC's Institute of Urban Education. So the goal is to create pipelines right here in the Kansas City metro area so that students have representation that looks like them, and then help keep them by making sure they have housing, they have food, they have things that they need and the support to feel belong and thrive as educators. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. We're excited to continue working together. We met when you were at KCK, and then we're excited now that you are in Missouri and continue to develop that relationship and working for the same goal. Up next, Dr. Jeremy Higgins. He is the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources at Shawnee Mission School District.
Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon and share some time with you. I would just call Randy and Adriana back up here and let them provide some talking points that I have. A lot is going to be what they shared as well. As I was thinking about what I wanted to share, in Shawnee Mission, so I'm Associate Superintendent of Human Resources in the Shawnee Mission School District. This is my 5th year in the Shawnee Mission School District. And I think back to my time when I started in Shawnee Mission in HR 5 years ago, and I look at the progress we've made in that time. And it's really reflective of some of the data that we shared earlier. We started at 21-22, about 2.5% of our educators were Hispanic, and this year we're up to 4%, which doesn't, from a percentage-wise, sound great, but it's almost doubled in the amount of certified teachers, which, when you look at it in that perspective, is a big deal. Is it what we want? Is it to that goal that we are searching for and really aspiring for? No, but baby steps along the way, right? Our strategic plan previously and currently speaks to belonging, and we really do lean into that. I think that helps us to recruit our educators of color that we can bring into the Shawnee Mission School District. I also think it speaks to the values of our district and really wanting to have that workforce that is reflective of our community and of the students that we serve. Just the other day, one of our elementary HR directors shared a really cool story with me in a post that was made on Instagram of a teacher. She is a senior in college that we just hired for next school year, and she's one of our kids. She's one of our graduates, our Shawnee Mission graduates, and she's Latino, and she spoke in her post about wanting to come back to the community that served her and wanting to be that mentor and that inspiration for the next generation. In Shawnee Mission, we do have a teacher pathway at all of our high school, at each of our high schools. And that's where we are really trying to, that's one of the parts that we're really trying to be intentional on focusing on to create that pipeline of future teachers, just so that we can spark that interest and that inspiration early on, and hopefully reap the benefits several years later down the road. So just really excited to be here to hear the stories, share the stories with everybody in the room of the great work that is going on across the metro area. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Higgins. Up next, I have the privilege of welcoming at least a community member who has been with us throughout, Dr. Michelle Guerrero, principal of Foreign Language Academy.
But I'm not Dr. yet. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about the news release. Not surprised. I do think that as our community continues to evolve and become more and more diverse, I do. And I am the principal of the Foreign Language Academy, as Yvonne said. So I work with Ms. Pence. And so I do have a unique opportunity as a building leader, as a principal, because no matter what our folks in HR do, if the teachers and the staff is not met at the building level with a space that they feel valued and that their professional judgment is trusted, then they're not going to stay. And so I think as a principal, I have another level of responsibility in this work, And so I am grateful that KCPS have given me that vote of confidence to do that work, and also has allowed me to be creative with our efforts to recruit our Latino teachers. My school is a Spanish immersion school, Spanish and Mandarin immersion school, and so we do serve a big population of Latinx students and families. We are 56% Latinx, and currently 44% of our teachers are native speakers. And so that's a point of pride for us, the fact that the kids can, our students that are Latino kids can learn the language and the culture firsthand from a native speaker, but also providing that opportunity for students that are not native speakers to value what the diverse community has to bring, and to value our language and our different cultures that are represented with our Latino students. For me, at the building level, I think it's important that teachers are met, like I said, in a culture that they are celebrated and valued, and that they do feel like they have a voice at the table. So that's something that we practice at FLA. Decisions are not made from the top down. The teachers are made at the table, and everybody has an equal voice to share, because they are the ones on the trenches. They are the ones doing the hard work, and our job in the office is to remove those barriers and to facilitate that process. And so I'm really excited to see the numbers. Like I said, not surprised, but also understanding that there's a lot of work still to be done. Again, as our community continue to diversify and grow, I think we have the obligation to respond to that. Representation matters, and I wanted to add not just for the students too, the families as well. It's very challenging at times for families to connect and to partner as deeply as they want to if they don't see themselves represented in the building. And so that becomes another barrier for them. And so having people in those roles that can facilitate that, being creative about ways in which we can help them connect, is also something that we are working on. And so,
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Up next, in our final speaker, we're closing out strong with one of our Futuro participants. Our Futuro Pilot program, like Edgar mentioned, our goal is to increase representation by 50 by 2027. We are on track for that, and I'm excited to welcome Jonathan Orejel to speak to us.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
I am Jonathan Orejel. I am a first-year teacher, so I am new to the career. Previously a graphic designer. I am a Los Angeles native, but I've been here a long time, so I am a product of this community, and I've always been really passionate about being involved in my community and giving back. I went to school where I didn't have representation. I was never involved in LULAC because my last name's a little different, so I didn't get involved into the Hispanic community at school. So I didn't do ESL or any of that. So I was always a little disconnected, but I've always been passionate about being able to represent my community and being able to be part of that environment and give back as much as I can. Because I'm really passionate about correcting people, and we're part of an urban district. And the kids themselves are, they put the schools down, they put themselves down. And I remind them, like, hey, I'm part of this community. I came out of these schools and I graduated. You can do it. So, you know, my life has led me in a bunch of directions. I never thought I would be a teacher, an educator. I've always kind of been an educator in a way because I've always worked at community programs, and I worked with Coffee Scholars, and I've done a lot of things where it's like maybe it was always pushing me in that direction. And I have a lot of friends that are teachers. A lot of my teachers personally are still my friends, and I consider them great role models. So they've always kind of pushed me in that direction. But you know, I'm just putting things in my pocket. Everything's been a stepping stone so that I can pass on my knowledge. That's always been my goal. So now that I can be part of that representation, it's an honor for me. because again, I went to school. I had one Hispanic teacher in middle school. Is my music teacher, Mr. Portillo. But after that, I didn't have another teacher that looked like me. Again, I don't look very, very Hispanic, but yes, it feels good to have that representation and to be able to speak Spanish to kids and see the smile on their face when they get something because they didn't understand in English. So it's like, hey, I can explain it to you in Spanish. And being able to incorporate everything from my culture and connect to other cultures because I'm in love with history and culture and being able to connect those things with what I'm teaching and being able to develop my graphic design projects because I am a graphic design teacher, which I haven't mentioned. So being able to show these kids that just because you come from poverty or you think your school is, they love to say the schools are ghetto, doesn't mean you can't achieve your dreams and your goals. You have to work. We have to work. And we are underprivileged because we are minorities. We're underprivileged because of where we grew up. But it doesn't mean that we're pigeonholed, right? We can work and we can develop into people that can do great things. And I remind them, like, what better way to show success than to come back to the community that you grew up in and to change things. So, I mean, you have opportunities sometimes to move out and say, well, no, I made a little bit of money, so I can move away. But I always say, like, yeah, you can move up, but stay in your community or give back because that's what made you who you are. So let's build it back up. Let's change that perspective that other places have of who we are. So little by little, I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to develop my students to think the way that I've always thought. I've always felt like I've always wanted to be a leader in some way or another. In kindergarten, I said I was going to be the president of the United States. So step one, I guess, right? Leading students. I'm on my way there. So, I mean, it's been a journey. It definitely, I see every day why being a teacher is so difficult. And like I said, I've always had the biggest respect for all of my teachers and everyone that I view as a teacher. I remind my students every day that I view them as teachers as well. I'm learning from them as much as they should be learning from me, I hope. And I'm loud. So as you can tell, my voice is it's gone. I'm very loud. So they can't stand it because I show up on every morning and they're asleep and I don't cut them any slack. And I remind them that I'm here to push you because the teachers that I love are people that push me. They wouldn't let me take shortcuts, and every time that I thought was going to be like, hey, this is going to be a chill year, I don't have to do much, they would call me and go, nope, here's an extra class for you. Here's a scholarship opportunity. So I want to be that person for my students, not just my Hispanic students, but I want to be that for all of the minority students at my school. And I remind even my Caucasian students, like, you are part of the minority group because of where we live. So don't take it for granted. Skin color doesn't mean anything. We have to work with what we have, and we have to make the best of it every single day. And be grateful that we're at least, for me, every day is a great day because I'm alive and I'm breathing. So if I get another opportunity to, keep passing that on, I'm going to do it every time. So thank you all for the opportunity. I've loved being part of the Futuros program, being able to come in and talk to teachers that have experience, decades of experience that I don't. So, writing down their experience and giving me the knowledge that I don't have, because you don't really get too much training. And every classroom is going to be different. Every kid is different. So you have to learn how to teach every student the way they need to be taught, which when I was in school, I think we were kind of lacking at, right? So sometimes kids don't get it. So you have to take the time to stop, go to those kids individually. And I don't mind doing it. I love being able to pick up tricks and tips from everyone that I come around. So the Futuros program has been great. And I hope more people take advantage of being able to belong to something like that. I'm sure more teachers wish there were organizations like this when they were developing their teaching careers. So thank you all for being part of it. Thank you all for continuing to grow and develop our communities because we are under attack every day. And I remind everyone every day that we don't know, what can happen. So educators are a big, big piece of that puzzle. We keep kids safe. They're with us the majority of their day. And sometimes we might be the only people that treat them with any kind of dignity. And the more I do this daily, the more I see that sometimes I'm the only person that might smile or treat these kids nicely, show them a little bit of love. So I love it, and I want to keep doing it. I appreciate it. I get emotional when I talk about things like this. So sorry about that. I'm a little weird about that. But I do appreciate being able to be that part of my kids' day. I help at Medals for the same reason. I get to be one of the people that greets people every morning. And we try to joke with them. Some kids come in mad every morning, and I try to say, hey, smile, at least you're here, you're breathing. So I love being part of that. And, just like seeing all of you around me, it's part of it. It makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger than just myself. So thank you. I appreciate it. And sorry for my little touchy feely self. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to introduce myself to you all, and I hope to see you all a lot more. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jonathan, Mr. President.
Thank
Today was a day to celebrate, even though it might seem that the increment was minimal. It shows that when we surround ourselves in community and partners, we can make change happen. Regardless of what's going on in the country, I think we should be proud of ourselves and what we have done over the past 5-6 years. And then change will continue to happen. And then hopefully we are here next celebrating at 10%, 50%, 25%. Before we end, I want to call Edgar back to the stage so he can close us out and also take some questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I just really want to thank you for modeling the way for me and our young people. I think that this work is emotional. I think caring for the lives of young folks and ensuring that they have opportunities and possibilities. It is a passion project. It is a commitment. it is an endeavor, and it requires dedication and fullness. And so, thank you for your vulnerability and your ability to do that day in and day out. We sincerely appreciate it. And we know that your story is powerful because the stories are what carry our work forward, right? Over the last 10 years, since this was an idea to where we are today, we've met thousands of Latino educators who have shared similar stories about how they feel in classrooms, how they feel in their school buildings, how they're deeply looking for community. And we aspire to build that community and be a part and co-create that community for our educators. And so we appreciate your work. Our young people appreciate it, and I have no doubt that in about 10, 15 years, you're going to have students coming back to you and you know the impact that you made in their lives. So thank you for that. I'll entertain some questions, if any. Throw me some hardballs just so I can practice deflecting. Yes.
So I know several of the speakers alluded to the national climate or the national political climate, how it's made things more difficult. Are there ways that it's become more tricky to sort of say out loud that you are targeting a certain demographic or trying to recruit from certain communities with some of the pushback there's been against diversity?
Absolutely. I think it is tricky for a lot of our partners to have those conversations. You know, we are fortunate that we don't have federal dollars or state level dollars, and so we have a little bit more freedom and mobility. We intend to use that, right? I think this moment requires courage. I think this moment requires control. And I think this moment requires us to take a really hard position in the fact that regardless if people think that representation matters or not, or if diversity and inclusion is important or not, like that is a reality for many of us, right? I've read many reports over the years. Our country is becoming more brown. That's the reality of it. Our country is going to be more black and brown, and that's important. And so we can't deny the growth. We can't deny the fact that young people across the country are increasingly more Latino, and that we're going to have to shift the way that we think about education. Right? And so whatever the efforts are at retaining whatever little power is left, and those that are trying not to give it away or give it up, I think it's important for organizations like ours to stand up and to speak truth to power and have that courage. Now, it might have consequences for us. You know, I think that's the risk that we're willing to take, because ultimately we have to advocate on behalf of our young people. We understand the data. We understand what representation does for the future trajectory of a young person. And so we have to have the courage. And again, this is where community is so important. Right? Our community has supported us along the way through difficult times. This organization was founded in, officially 2018. We had a small little global pandemic in 2019. We went through a racial reckoning in the early 20s. We have gone through different administrations where we've seen this type of behavior before, and we have lasted and survived and thrived. And so we aspire to be a beacon of hope, a lighthouse in many ways, for the fact that, and what I love about lighthouses is that they're not designed for the calm and sunny days. Lighthouses are designed for stormy waters and dark skies. And so that's what we want to be for our community, and that's what we will continue to do.
Can you speak a little bit about, what we know about how having an educator that looks at them in the classroom impacts students' trajectory in their learning, like you mentioned?
Yeah, there's a lot of research that has studied what representation, racial representation, ethnic representation does to the trajectory of young people. First and foremost, it allows them to feel seen. And that mindset, that ability to know that you belong, that you are a part of a community, makes education and the learning process that much more simple, right? If you feel safe, if you feel like you belong, you're more willing to learn, you're more willing to engage in conversations, you're more willing to build trust, and the trust that's required in order for you to talk about difficult subjects. So that's the first part of it. I think secondly, many of the educators that we met along the years talk about the reason that they became educators was that they did not see themselves reflected in schools, right? That is a common theme that we hear. And the commitment that educators have to remove barriers, to go above and beyond, the day-to-day obligations, makes a huge difference for young people. The opportunities that they're receiving, the scholarship dollars that they may get, all those other additional resources and efforts really starts to pave the way for a young person to have a successful trajectory, right? I'm reminded of, I was fortunate to be born in Miami, Florida, where the majority of my teachers and educators were Latino. My parents did not have to struggle once to speak Spanish or to understand what was going on. I couldn't get away with anything, right? Because the community was that strong. When I moved to Spokane, Washington, and I was one of two Latinos in the building, and maybe the only Spanish-speaking one, that became increasingly difficult because I was assumed to be ELL. I was assumed not to have certain characteristics. I was assumed not to have abilities that other students might have had, right? And so the advocacy work that had to happen there, I've always been a rebel, and so for me, that came naturally, but it is easy to get lost in the system when you don't have those advocates and champions. And the best advocates and champions are the folks that have that proximity and closeness to that issue, right? Which means that they have that lived experience and they understand what it means to go through schools and be. So that makes a huge difference. And finally, it's a community of support. And when we tackle education not as a school system's responsibility, but as a community responsibility, it makes sure that we close the gaps everywhere, right? And so we can come together from different industries, different places of kind of importance. We can ensure that young people are walking through the system whole versus lacking the resources that they need to actually be successful in the future.
Are there any trends or efforts that have seen the highest growth among Latino teachers and others?
Yeah, they acknowledge that there's an issue. First and foremost, they are not afraid to say that this is an issue that they're tackling, and they're also not afraid to publicly state that they care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? I recently attended the KCPS Education Foundation's breakfast, and I was really impressed by Dr. Collier, her commitment to say that these are actual issues. We care about diversity, equity, inclusion. We're going to double down on our young people, and we're going to go ahead and fight the battles. That courage, that level of risk taking, that level of commitment is necessary, right? When we don't try to address the issue, when we try to push it underneath the carpet, so to speak, under the rug, then we can't address it. We can't have real conversations in the community. So I think that's one of the trends. $2 are spent, right? The recruitment dollars are there. Those budgets really make a difference. And so if you want to understand, I think any district's priorities, you're going to take a look at its budget and how they're spending those dollars. And so I'll let you all do the data research and analysis on that. But that's important. And then I think it's also the quality of educators that are at the grassroots level, right? One thing that we've seen with our great partners is that they are people that are committed and go above and beyond without complaint, without consequence, and they're making sure that those resources are available in their schools. They're also fighting battles internally, right? Not everybody is in agreement that these are important issues, but they're willing to take those risks and they're willing to get their hands slapped a little bit in order to make sure that young people have the resources to be successful. So those are the trends, but really it is about acknowledging the problem and then being willing to find creative solutions to address it. Representation is not a new issue. It's been ongoing, and so districts who are asking for help and are asking for those supports are the ones that are going to fare better.
If I can actually add, let me just stand here. I want to give another example. My name is Katrina D. I'm our Director of Comms. I wanted to share, especially in a time when the teaching of true history is being attacked nationwide. Districts even just recognizing the history that many of our cultures have gone through. I saw Shawnee Mission posted about Ruby Bridges the other day. It doesn't always look like a grand announcement to DEI, but we need to continue to share what our kids, our Latino students, our Black students, our immigrant students have gone through in the past, so we don't forget where we come from. So we see that happening locally, and it looks very different district to district. And as our board members and attendants do know, it can feel difficult, especially when you're living in a region that leans in one direction politically. Some districts or folks feel like they have targets on their back. We continue to teach kids the true history of how things have been in schools and society as well. So I wanted to make that example. And I'm going to bring you back up, but I do have a question from our online media friends that are in attendance. And this, I think, is actually better for our HR partners in attendance. So we have a bilingual media partner that is curious to hear what work is being done in the pipeline area for adults that move to the US and have teaching degrees, but don't have authorization to work, because some districts will go to other countries to recruit teachers, but we have a lot of talent already living in our communities, but they may not have work authorization already. So one of our bilingual folks that covers St. Joseph, Topeka, and Kansas City submitted that question to me. So if anyone from HR or anyone can speak to that, I would invite you back to the podium to comment on that. If you have thoughts. Yep. Right on back so they can hear you. Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. So this is a big part of why I choose KCPS and recruiting here. It's because we do hire internationally and we do take into consideration certain visas. Depends. If you have a bachelor's in anything, we can kind of then help you figure out a pipeline to help you get certified. Once you're certified, we can then sponsor with visas. So can you read me the question one more time so I can make sure?
Yeah, so she actually sent a specific example of a person that was a high school STEM educator in Cuba, but doesn't have work authorization currently in the country. So this person is actually working in a factory currently. And so she's wondering, she has many other examples, but how are we supporting as districts folks to walk through the process in a way that makes them able to work here in the US?
Districts like KCPS and then departments like mine. So we have multiple people on my team that are there to really help make sure that we can, make sure they find a certification program. So once you get a certification in the state, so for us in Missouri, we can then make sure to help you with that visa process and that legal process. Now that's our district. And we have multiple folks that are there in place to do so because that's very common for us. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure she saw it. Dr. Valdez, you have a question or statement? Sure. Hop on up. Yeah, no, stand all the way up.
I'm Dr. Anna Valdez, and I am the Director of Educator Initiatives. So what we've discovered, so a little bit before Adriana was saying, once a person gets certified, then they can find pathways into teaching roles. The problem that we've been running into and that we've been facing with a variety of people from other countries that have the degrees is that certification system. It is very difficult in both Kansas and Missouri, a little bit easier in Kansas than it is in Missouri currently to get somebody certified. And we have dozens of examples. That is one example of one person coming with it, the education, not only that, but also the work experience. And so what we have discovered is that there is a lengthy process, and it's incumbent upon the person who is reading the transcripts or the transcribed transcripts from the foreign country, generally in a foreign language, that we don't have the correct people at the state level that can understand or translate, and they're reliant on a third company or a fourth company to do all of that heavy lifting. What we've discovered is that what we can offer is a lot of side-by-side walking with that individual that's coming from another country and encouraging them and supporting them. Unfortunately, we can't financially, but encouraging them, supporting them emotionally, and making the phone calls, and kind of like what we do with the government when they go into a school and want to know. It's not necessarily always the school district's, I don't want to use fault, but responsibility to kind of have the state understand and accept what the person has. And so what we discovered is it's a long process, it's a tedious process, it needs to be revamped and updated, and we could have an easier flow of people getting into positions that are qualified and meet all the criteria except for that certification step. And then that's what holds back a lot of districts and schools to get the people that they need in front of the students who need those people.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, any additional questions?
Awesome on me.
All right, hearing none, thank you all for being here today, thank you for taking the time, and we're always available to answer any additional questions as they come up. I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,